Hello friends, and welcome back to Skin Movies. Today, we're diving into the bold and intriguing world of Secretary, a 2002 movie, a romantic drama directed by Steven Shainberg. This movie takes us on a roller coaster of emotions as we follow Lee Holloway, a young woman navigating her life after being released from a mental hospital. With themes of self-discovery, unconventional relationships, and healing, Secretary delivers a story that's equal parts provocative and heartfelt. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one. Let's get started.
Our journey starts with Lee Holloway entering her office, appearing tense as she awkwardly staples and handles documents using her mouth before departing, forcefully closing the door with her leg. 6 years prior, Lee is depicted standing outside a hospital with her luggage. Dr. Tartan approaches to bid her farewell, and they share an emotional hug before she departs. Shortly thereafter, her mother arrives to collect her, and Lee reluctantly accompanies her. At a wedding ceremony, Lee encounters Peter, an old schoolmate, who inquires about her happiness at home. She responds uncertainly and they share a dance. Later, her father, inebriated, approaches her and embraces her emotionally, expressing how much he misses her. He then sits down, visibly uncomfortable from drinking too much. Witnessing her father's condition causes Lee to become distressed, and she retreats to her room. There, she retrieves a box containing sharp objects hidden under her mattress. She takes one out with the intent to harm herself, but ultimately refrains. Subsequently, she closes the box and stores it away in a drawer. That night, Lee witnesses a violent altercation between her parents, during which her father pushes her mother, causing her to fall and lose consciousness. Terrified, Lee retreats to her room with a kettle of hot water, using it to inflict pain upon herself while simultaneously smiling and crying. Later, she is seen gazing intently at one of her toys in the swimming pool. In class, Lee engages in typing practice, effectively following her teacher's directives and demonstrating an increase in her typing speed. Her mother commends her efforts on their way home. Lee reflects on a past suicide attempt involving self-harm. In response, her mother takes precautionary measures by concealing all knives and sharp objects in a locked space. Upon discovering this, Lee reacts with anger and leaves the house, discarding some of her toys in the trash. There, she notices a discarded newspaper, retrieves it, and returns to her room. She finds several job advertisements within and selects one to pursue. Practicing her introduction in front of a mirror, she discovers another ad for a secretary position, which brings her joy. She arrives at the specified address amid inclement weather, only to find the space in disarray. A woman enters to retrieve a box, briefly greeting Lee before departing without listening to her. Shortly thereafter, she meets Gray, a lawyer seeking a secretary. He comments that a lawyer with a briefcase can wield more power than 100 armed men. Lee presents her qualifications, but Gray informs her that she is overqualified for the position, describing the work as monotonous and tedious. Nevertheless, she agrees to take the job and informs her mother of her success as they drive home. Her mother expresses excitement and pride in Lee's achievement. Lying in the bathtub, she practices her responses to phone calls and derives great satisfaction from her newly acquired position. She begins her role at Gray's office, where she undertakes various tasks. Gray appreciates her performance and appears fully satisfied with her work. On one occasion, she inquires with the first secretary about her responsibilities but receives no response. She returns to her office with coffee and a box of donuts for Gray. He requests that she retrieve some notes he accidentally discarded in the trash. Once she leaves, he discards the box of donuts. She successfully finds the notes in the bin. Upon returning to the office, she encounters her mother, who informs her that she must stay for over 5 hours. She presents the notes to Gray, but he informs her that he has located their copy and no longer requires them. He then asks her to add more sugar to the coffee and refresh the mousetrap. She complies with his requests. While she is attending to the mousetrap, Gray observes her legs and notices the marks of previous wounds. Suddenly, the phone rings, prompting her to rush to answer it. Gray's wife, Trisha O'Connor, arrives to see him, but Lee asks her to wait. Trisha becomes angry and raises her voice at Gray, who hears her from his office. Behind every angry wife is a husband unaware of his missteps. He avoids her by hiding in a cupboard and instructs Lee to inform Trisha that he is not present. She emerges and tells Trisha that he has left. Just then, Lee receives a call from her father, which brings her joy. Trisha, however, becomes furious and tramples Gray's overcoat, instructing Lee to ask Gray about the settlement. When she returns to the phone, her father has hung up. Frustrated, she slams the receiver down in anger. She takes out her purse and contemplates harming herself with a needle. Observing her from a distance, Gray sees her pause before she can inflict any harm. Later that evening, she encounters Peter at a laundromat, where Gray arrives to collect his clothes. He sees her with Peter, engaged in washing clothes and sharing a kiss. Consumed by jealousy, he departs. The following day, Gray discovers a spelling error in a letter and expresses his displeasure with Lee. It appears he requires another secretary to rectify the mistakes of his current one. Lee feels remorseful and apologizes. Gray reprimands her and emphasizes the need for greater care in the future. She retypes the letter, but he continues to find errors. Despite feeling sad and hurt, she perseveres in her efforts to enhance her performance. He criticizes her attire and body language, deeming them inappropriate for his business. Later that evening, Peter's parents approach Lee to seek her consent to marry Peter, but she remains silent. The next day, Gray summons her to the library and instructs her to practice answering telephone calls. She picks up the receiver as he guides her on how to respond professionally. He treats her kindly and encourages her to share her concerns without fear. He advises her to stop self-harming and to dispose of her sharp-edged tools. She departs the office and finds her mother waiting outside. She informs her mother that she will walk home to enjoy the fresh air. The following day, she again makes typing errors, prompting Gray's anger. He approaches her and asks her to retype the letter. She complies and corrects the mistakes. Upon her return, he instructs her to bend down and read the letter aloud. As she follows his directions, he unexpectedly slaps her on the hips, catching her off guard. However, she does not react negatively. He continues to slap her, and she finds enjoyment in the experience. What is happening here? Regardless, back at home, she requests her mother to unlock the cupboard where she has stored all the sharp-edged objects. Her mother feels pleased to witness a positive shift in her behavior. Later, Lee visits the river and disposes of her box of sharp objects in the water. She begins to genuinely enjoy her job, completing every task submissively. She intentionally makes mistakes to derive pleasure from the punishments administered by Gray, who employs various methods. Her mother is delighted to see her happiness, unaware of the nature of her relationship with Gray. At night, she finds solace in her memories of Gray, while also looking at pictures of Peter. The next day, before leaving for home, she asks Gray if he requires any assistance. He tells her she is free to go home, which saddens her as she wishes to spend more time with him. She visits the hospital to see her father, who is unwell from excessive drinking. She feels unfortunate witnessing her father's condition. She then goes to see Gray, who is surprised by her late-night visit. She attempts to engage him in conversation, but struggles to do so. He closes the door and asks her to leave. She departs, crying bitterly. The following day, she observes a notable shift in Gray's demeanor as he engages with her in a more formal manner. In an attempt to elicit a reaction from him, she tries to regain his attention, but he appears increasingly disinterested. Her attachment to him is so profound that she seeks solace in mimicking his previous affections. The subsequent day, she discovers an earthworm on the grass and includes it in a letter, hoping to provoke a response from him that aligns with her desires for disciplinary attention. Although she becomes intimate with Peter, she finds no enjoyment in the encounter, as her emotional focus remains fixed on Gray. Upon discovering the earthworm in the letter, Gray summons her to his office. He instructs her to bend down and lift her skirt, leading her to anticipate a more intimate engagement. However, he merely satisfies himself and departs without further interaction. Disheartened, she refrains from voicing her feelings and retreats to the washroom to find pleasure by imagining Gray. Gray, perturbed by his actions, removes his certificates from the wall and incinerates several photographs of former secretaries. Despite his efforts to compose a letter, he finds himself fatigued and unwell. The following day, as she arrives at the office, Gray repeats the same interview questions he initially posed on the day of her hiring. His frustration escalates, culminating in her termination from the position. In a moment of anger, she retaliates by slapping him. He presents her with a termination letter, and she leaves in tears, choosing not to confide in anyone about her job loss. Instead, she pretends to maintain her daily routine and observes his office from a distance, noting the new secretary he has employed. In an effort to obtain fulfillment, she searches for new romantic encounters but finds no satisfaction, opting to isolate herself at home to care for her father. Unexpectedly, one day at a restaurant, Peter proposes to her. She agrees to his proposal but, in her wedding dress, rushes to find Gray instead. Surprised by her arrival, he urges her to leave, but she remains steadfast in her decision to stay. She professes her love for him, making it unequivocally clear that she will not return to Peter. To challenge her commitment and endurance, he instructs her to sit at a table and not to move until he permits it. She complies, waiting patiently for his return. Upon seeing her unwavering posture, he calls Peter and requests that he come to retrieve her. However, when Peter arrives, she adamantly refuses to accompany him. Later, her mother attempts to persuade her to reconsider, but she remains resolute. A number of individuals visit Lee, either to intervene or to offer their support, while Edward observes from a distance, captivated by Lee's resolve and the desires it incites within him. After 3 days, which draw significant media attention attention to what has been termed the Lee Holloway hunger strike. Gray resumes his work and brings Lee to his home, where he attends to her needs. Ultimately, Lee and Edward marry and find happiness in their loving relationship. The film ends here.
That's it for today's recap of Secretary. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Lee and Edward's unusual journey, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more captivating movie recaps. Let us know in the comments what you thought about this unique story and if you'd like us to recap any other films. Stay curious, stay creative, and as always, keep exploring. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.